All right, what we're going to be learning about today is how to use levels in order to create contrast in your overall image, and then to try to pick out different parts of your image in order to create a little bit more depth and a little bit more contrast with that. Okay, so we're going to start big and we're going to go to smaller areas. So I'm just going to work with this image right here. I'm going to start off by duplicating my background layer, which is Command J. Or you could drag that layer down to the plus sign on the left-hand side of the trash can. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to go right down to my adjustment layers and I'm going to click on levels. Now, this gives me my histogram. And basically, if you want to have good contrast and you want to make sure that your photograph is well, all your tones are well distributed from the blacks up to the highlights, then you're just going to make sure that this kind of touches on the beginning of your histogram, which it does for the blacks. And then same thing for the highlights. Now, what you can do, the middle one is to adjust your exposure. So you could either go darker or you could go brighter. Okay, so that would be kind of up to you. I'm going to make it probably around here for now. All right, now I'm going to go back to layer one. Now I'm going to set up my quick mask mode. If you click on the little rectangle with the circle in it, right below the black and the white foreground and background color, I'm going to double click on that. Now, originally when you get to it, it's going to be red. Okay, it'll look like this. All you have to do is click on selected areas, double click on your color, and I would change it to a bright green. Okay, something like that, and then go okay and okay. And that just means that basically you're going to be using that bright green color in order to make a selection of something that you would like to adjust in your photograph. And normally that color doesn't exist very often in a photograph, so you're going to be safe. And okay, so basically I'm going to start big. You always want to go bigger and then go smaller. We're going to avoid the sky because it's going to throw off our histogram. So I'm basically with a big brush. So I'm going to do Q to enter into the quick mask mode, B for brush. I'm going to make sure that my flow and opacity are at 100. And I also want to make sure that the hardness of the brush is 0%. Now I'm just going to quickly brush over. This method is much faster than using the lasso method, the lasso tool. Okay, so now it's selected. If I want to deselect an area, I'm going to make sure my brush is a bit smaller, and I'm going to click on X to change my color from black to white. And I'm just going to brush over that quickly to make sure that that's not part of the selection. I'm going to click X again, and now I'm going to click Q. When I do Q, I'm going to get the marching ants going around my selection. Okay, now that that's selected, I'm going to go on back down to my adjustment layer, and I'm going to click on levels again. And now this looks pretty good. Okay, it's not a huge difference, but if I want to darken it up a little bit, I can. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go back to layer one, and just to show you what you can do with the image, I'm going to do about 5 different levels adjustments within this tutorial. So now I'm back on layer one. In order to, just a little review, to click the quick mask mode, I'm going to go Q for this button, B for brush, and I'm going to do this wall right here. Okay, I'm going to try to get a little bit more detail in the brick, okay, just like that. And now I'm going to go Q again. It looks pretty good. All right, and now what do? I go on down to my adjustment layer. I'm going to go to levels, and I could probably add a little bit of the black there. My whites are fine. Maybe I want to darken that color a little bit. Okay, so that's fine with that. I'm going to go back to my layer one. I'm going to do Q for quick mask mode, B for brush. Now I'm going to go over to this part of the wall right here. I'm going to leave the water alone right now. Just going to go right here. Okay, and now Q again. This will not affect the photograph too much right there. Okay, but if I did want to correct it, I could go Q again. Now I'm going to change my color to white. So I could just click on X to change the color from black to white. I'm going to refine that edge. I can refine this part right here. I'm going to click on X again and go back to black. And now it looks pretty good. If I want to add that little part, click on Q again, add that, and now click Q again. Now I'm going to go back to my levels and I'm going to add, it's just a little tiny adjustment. Now I can either darken or I can brighten that a bit. Okay. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do just this part. Okay. So I'm going to try to get a little bit more color to pop right here. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to go Q again, and I'm going to go back to my levels. I'm going to brighten that up a little bit, I think. Okay, get that to pop a bit more. All right, and I want the water. I want a little bit more detail in the water, so Q and then B. Okay, so I'm going to just select that, and hopefully I'm going to be able to bring out a little bit more of that reflection of the buildings here. Now, I like to use this method for a lot of like landscape work. I wouldn't necessarily use it for a portrait because then you're messing with the skin tones too much and you don't want to have too much contrast in the skin. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my levels, and so I'm pretty good with my blacks, but I'm going to brighten that up a little bit. Now I'm going to see about my overall exposure. See if I brighten it too much. I don't like it so much, but I think that that looks nice. I'm going to try to get a little bit more detail in that boat. So I'm going to do QB. And now I'm going to just quickly select that. You don't have to be too precise. I might get a little bit of that right there. And then Q again. And I'm going to go back to levels. And now I'm just going to make that pop a bit more by adding a little bit more of the white. Okay, let's see how we're doing so far. So if I want to look at the before and after, I'm going to do Option Shift and click on the eye. Before, after, before, after. So you can see that it's starting to really pop now. Now I can do more things, obviously. If I want to bring out a little bit more detail in this building back here, let's try it. Q and then B. It's in the shadows, so we're probably not going to get a lot of the whites. Okay. And I might get a little bit of this little bridge here. Okay, and now Q. So I have my marching ants, so now I'm going to go levels, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit, and I'm going to try to make that pop a bit more. I'm going to bring my blocks to the beginning, and there we go. And I think that that looks fine. Okay, you could do this with any part. Basically, if you want to try to get that window a little bit more, or you just want to get that building, then that would be fine as well. Okay, so it's just a very quick lesson in how to create contrast using levels, and it allows you to select part of your photograph. And once you have that selection done, then you can click on levels and you can have a look at the actual histogram of your selection. And remember, in order to get into the quick mask mode, the shortcut is Q. You have to set it up first, but then you go into Q and then B. You make your selection with your brush, make it a nice big brush, which has 0% hardness. Click on Q again, and then you can go into whatever it is you want. Just so that you also know, you're not limited, obviously, to doing levels. So we could do Q and then B, and then we could, if we want, like we could increase the saturation of this part of the photograph, okay? Because there's more saturation on the other side. So if we want this side to have more saturation, I'm going to click Q again. Now I'm going to go to this side. Now I can go to hue saturation, and now I am bumping up the saturation on the right-hand side of the photograph without affecting the left-hand side because there was already more saturation on that side, okay? Yeah, so that's basically it. That's how you're going to use the levels and the quick mask mode.